Good afternoon and welcome to WEFM's Midday News, brought to you with the kind compliments of Court St. Vincent Limited.
Happiness is the best deals. Happiness is great savings. Happiness is the best deals and great savings. Only at Quartz. Shop today with no cash and get 30 days to pay with ready finance. Only at Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
Welcome back to WEFM's Midday News, brought to you with the kind compliments of Court St. Vincent Limited. I am your presenter, Rajiv Providence. First, on the local scene. Vincentians are being urged to familiarize themselves with the locations of the nation's petroglyphs and other heritage sites. The call comes from Vincent Reed, who has been commissioned by the St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Trust to map all historical sites in St. Vincent. We'll hear more.
I want people to be aware of the petroglyphs, to be aware of our historical and cultural heritage sites, and to understand that they speak to us. They tell us that there was someone before us. They were our forefathers. They were there before us, and it's important that we respect and try to preserve what they left as a record of their existence. How much times you don't want to keep your loved ones who die close to you? You go every 1st and 2nd of November and you put candles on the graves. That's you showing respect for them, for their memory. These people came before us, so long before us, and left record of their passing. And we need to respect that. Vincentians need to get on board and start to look at these cultural heritage sites, these petroglyphs and all those other buildings that speaks of our first existence, of our history, and to respect them and to have pride in knowing where they are, what they mean, and do everything that they can to try and preserve it.
Reed spoke recently during the cleaning of volcanic ash at 13 Stones Petroglyph in Petit Badel, organized by the National Trust. The Minister of Agriculture, Suboto Caesar, noted that farmers will benefit from a notable discount on the landed price of fertilizer on the pending shipment. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has caused a significant increase in the price of fertilizer globally. The Agricultural Input Warehouse of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has subsidized the cost of fertilizer for farmers for several years. This is in an effort to reduce the cost of production in the agriculture sector. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be providing a further subsidy to ensure that the cost of fertilizer remains affordable. Ordinary manure (NPK) is being sold at a discount of 36%, urea at 41%, vegetable fertilizer at 24%, and sulfate of ammonia at a 22% discount. Owing to the changes in prices on the global fertilizer markets, the government's subsidy will be addressed on a shipment-by-shipment basis. The farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have benefited from direct government interventions over the last 3 years. Among those initiatives are tractor services, seeds and seedlings, fertilizer support, marketing in the form of the Love Box initiative, and farm infrastructure rehabilitation. The next fertilizer shipment is expected to arrive in St. Vincent and the Grenadines before the end of the month. There are currently 18 active cases of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines following the report of 14 new cases of the virus. According to the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment's COVID-19 update for Tuesday, April 19th, there were also 9 new rapid antigen cases reported. There were no new COVID-19 hospitalizations recorded, with that number remaining at 1. That patient is unvaccinated. SVG's COVID-19 death toll currently stands at 106. Of this number, 100 were unvaccinated, 1 was partially vaccinated, and 5 were fully vaccinated. Since March of 2020, there have been 6,765 PCR COVID-19 cases reported here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On to news in the region. COVID-19 cases in Guyana continue to be low when compared to a few months ago, but Guyana's Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said authorities are monitoring the situation both locally and internationally. Over the last 24 hours, 10 new infections were identified to take the country's total figure to 103. At a COVID-19 update, Anthony said the situation may be artificially low since less people are coming forward to be tested.
So right now we have 103 persons who have tested positive for COVID. Over the last 24 hours, we've had 10 persons. So the numbers right now are really low. Hospitalization, we have 6 persons in hospital with 4 of them at the Ocean View Hospital. So we keep monitoring, but we have to be cautious because we know in other countries in the region, they have started to see a spike in cases. While most of the cases are not severe, there are still cases. So we have to be careful.
That was Guyana's Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. COVID-19 vaccinations in Guyana have also fallen, with the minister disclosing that 0 persons were vaccinated over the Easter weekend, and the daily average is now just over 100 people. The University of the West Indies Climate Studies Group at Mona, CSGM, says Caribbean islands need to pay attention to the second installment of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, known as the Sixth Assessment Report, AR6. The report, which was released in February, presents a dire warning of the significant implications of inaction for the globe and the region, noting that even temporarily exceeding global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius that is anticipated in the next 2 decades will result in severe effects, some of which will be irreversible. CSGM says while the report covers the global impacts, vulnerabilities, and risk of climate change, Chapter 15 was dedicated to addressing small islands in the Caribbean, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. CSGM said it has compiled 10 urgent takeaways for the Caribbean following an analysis of the IPCC February report, noting, for instance, that as global warming continues to rise, small islands face an existential threat of global warming rises above 1.5 degrees Celsius. On the international scene, Australia, New Zealand, and the US have raised concerns on security in the Pacific after China signed a security pact with the Solomon Islands. The deal was signed this week, fueling fears China may seek to build a naval base in the Pacific nation. The Solomon Islands had rebuffed last-ditch efforts by Australia, its biggest aid donor, to stop the deal. Prime Minister Manasseh Sovaguer said the pact would not undermine peace and harmony in the region. The Solomon Islands leader added that the pact was not aimed at traditional allies, but rather at our own internal security situation. He did not disclose the pact's terms, but insisted it was made with eyes wide open, guided by their national interests. And finally, in sports, Russian and Belarusian players will not be allowed to compete at Wimbledon this year because of the invasion of Ukraine. Men's world number 2 Daniil Medvedev of Russia and women's world number 4 Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus are the highest ranked players to be affected. Players from both countries have been allowed to compete on the tennis tour, but not under their national flags. Wimbledon takes place from June 27th to July 10th. Sabalenka reached the semifinals of last year's tournament, while Medvedev, who has been announced as one of the star draws at the grass court warm-up event, reached the 4th round. This has been WEFM's Midday News. I have been your presenter, Rajiv Providence. Join us again at 3 p.m. for WEFM's 3 p.m. News. WEFM's Midday News is brought to you with the kind compliments of Quartz, St. Vincent Limited.
Glam out in the best names and designer frames with Quartz Optical. Buy one stylish frame and get 50% off your second pair. Sport your favorite Armani, Converse, Vogue, and many more frames for less. Get an additional 10% off and pay nothing for 30 days when you pay with Ready Finance. Book your free eye examination appointment online today on www.quartzoptical.com. Don't miss the opportunity to glam out, only at Quartz Optical. Value you can see. Offer available